Well, how's it going, guys? It is good to be with you. We're going to hop in and just kind of go for it. First things first.
I'm the realist.
This is, first things first, I'm the realist. Second thing second, this is the biggest episode of the Series Recap podcast that we've ever had because the most we've ever had was 3. And now we have 5 around the table.
It's a special day.
Record breaking.
Blowing the door off.
But first things, to kick us off, we all have coffee cups, which is the best thing. So let's go around. What are you guys drinking? What do you guys have here?
Decaf.
Decaf, let's go.
Decaf coffee.
Decaf coffee.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I just
Trevor,
wanted to fit
That
in.
was so rude. Trevor literally just got the mug for Cheryl because she needed one for the thing, and then immediately he's like, "That's not. It's fake."
Just a
You still
prop.
have to just still pretend.
Yeah. Do you want to pour? Do you want to pour a little bit of mine in there?
No.
Yeah,
that's okay.
should we all pour?
No. I mean, I would take some from my husband, but that's it. Sorry,
I think we
guys.
talked about it on a. Maybe it was before we started shooting, but that's like the origin of Cheers. You know, is that you clink your cups and
clink
your
it right
drink
in.
spills in, and that's how you knew that it was safe. This person is trustworthy.
Or you both die.
Or you,
Yeah.
But yeah, if they were trying to poison you, you would cheers, and then if they your drinks would spill into each other, and that's how you know it was safe.
Oh, okay.
It was a trust thing.
Would you need just that amount of poison though?
Maybe. If it's
I don't know what they used.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
symbolic, maybe.
I say don't know what they used. Honestly, if I needed to poison somebody today, I don't know.
You still want to know?
I have no idea.
I feel that the stereotypical in all crime scene things is rat poison, but that's about.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
arsenic?
I think we should make a disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer.
We do not
We are
in any
not
way
saying to
endorse
do that.
poisoning anyone.
But if you,
Committed
but Arsenic and Old Lace, the old Cary Grant movie, is really good. If you're interested in wanting to be fun,
Yes.
Arsenic and Old Lace, starring Cary Grant,
Ooh.
very good. There you go.
My mind goes straight to Dumb and Dumber. So
Dumb and Dumber.
yeah, the rat poison.
Ooh, there you go. I've seen Dumb and Dumber. I don't remember Dumb and Dumber.
Me
No,
either.
it's quite the scene.
I wouldn't watch such filth.
You're so holy.
I've definitely seen that
I am a
movie.
Christian.
I've seen that movie a lot, actually.
I actually have not.
Yeah,
Actually,
well, there you
I've
go. So
never
see,
seen
there's
I have not either.
Oh.
Okay.
well, you know,
You know who the seniors are in the room.
it's a comedy classic.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Oh man, but hey, we just did Called Sunday.
But sorry, to answer the question, everybody's drinking decaf coffee.
Everybody is drinking.
except for Cheryl, who has nothing.
So if you maybe this is a better question. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Cheryl.
No, you're not.
What would you drink if you had the chance? And I mean, like, if you were getting if you're a coffee drinker, what kind of coffee are you getting?
Are you asking all of us or
Yes.
just Cheryl?
All of us and Cheryl. Well, we can start with Cheryl. Cheryl, you don't have a cup. Well, you do have a cup.
I do have a cup. What would I put in it?
Yeah, what would you put in it?
About this much coffee and that much creamer.
Yeah.
Flavored creamer.
Any kind of coffee? Or are you picky at all on it?
No.
No.
Coach,
I am not a coffee snob. Folgers and Maxwell House are fine for me.
That's so sad.
You're supposed to say good Brazilian.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's mine.
That's
That's my
mine,
life.
yeah.
Good dark.
Oh, sorry,
roast Brazilian.
Bendix coffee.
Yeah, Bendix.
Oh, Bendix, locally roasted.
Yes.
Bendix coffee would be my choice.
Hope blend.
Yes, Hope Blend. Soon to be served at Coffee Fellowship here.
Is that real?
That is real.
Oh,
When
yeah,
does
we're-
that start
we're
in?
moving up.
This weekend.
Is
This weekend, we're going to have Bendix coffee.
Is that
for
the first
everyone?
announcement?
Yes.
Whoa, breaking news.
Shoot.
And for all of our guests, free sample you can take home with
I mean, I guess not that spoiler. I saw the bags this Sunday back there.
Yeah.
That is a
That's
really amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you are tired of boring coffee,
Folgers or Maxwell House.
it's no
like a
longer
Folgers,
it's
yeah.
no longer in your cup. Bendix is now in your cup.
Yeah, come on.
Will be.
Locally roasted.
Locally
Bendix.
roasted Bendix coffee.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Jim, what do you like to drink?
Some dark Brazilian dark roast powdered coffee.
Yeah.
Extra dark roast.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I just drink black coffee for daily, but if I was going to a coffee shop, which
Yeah.
maybe is what you're asking, I love I have a few different go-tos. I love a lavender latte. Pretty much anything lavender I love. I also love nitro cold brew.
Those are good.
Yeah. And I also love a good pour over. You know. So I was going to a coffee shop, just a nice pour over, nice smooth. It's really good.
Let's go.
Mine would be
Folgers in your cup.
mine would be actually a pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin spice latte?
I love not the latte, just
Just
like
flavored
pumpkin
coffee.
spice
Okay.
black coffee. Yeah, I love that. It's almost that
It's
time.
almost
of year.
time.
Yeah.
It's almost
More
my
weeks.
time.
Dude, I just saw it at Target.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they start
I got
now.
really
I bet you
excited.
can get it at Starbucks already. I haven't
Yeah.
looked, but
I'm gonna hold off because I want the leaves to start changing color.
You don't need
Yeah.
to.
I don't need to, but I want to.
you know what? There's certain things that are just they're special because they're reserved for special times.
That's true.
Like Christmas music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
After Thanksgiving.
Okay, well maybe that's a little intense. Trevor,
Stop it.
we're gonna get derailed here. Trevor, you finish us up.
Man, I would probably go for Boston Stoker's Highland Grog if I had like a good daily choice.
It's very
That'd be
good.
my go-to. I know
And-
you're not a big Boston Stoker fan.
Highland Grog's a good. It's fine, but for people who don't know, I mean,
It's a Dayton, Ohio
Yeah.
coffee brand.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's only in Dayton. And it's like a chain.
I think it is. It's a Dayton chain.
What did it have? Columbus?
I don't know, but it's from Dayton.
Yeah, it's from Dayton. It's Dayton area, Dayton adjacent. So, but pretty good coffee. I like it.
Yeah.
And well, hey, as we are all kind of sipping for sorry, sure.
There we go.
We just had Call Sunday where we talked about our calling, and so we went over time, and so there was a lot of aspects probably to our callings that we didn't really get to touch on. And so I love for us to kind of take a moment to go around and to be able to talk a little bit more, give a quick recap, and then dive into some more. What are some aspects that you didn't get to talk about or touch on when it comes to your story? And we'll just kind of go around. So sure, if you want to kick us off.
Okay. I think piggybacking kind of on what Pastor Nathaniel said yesterday about that the reason that he wrote in his journal about why he wanted to be a youth pastor is because he wanted to be a part of people's stories. And I think that's part of why I love pastoring and being in full-time ministry. I get to be a part of people's stories now. I love leading and teaching Bible studies, and I love that look on somebody's face when it finally clicks. It's like, aha, I finally get it.
Yeah.
And so that I get to do that and get paid to do it is great.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can't remember what I said from first service to second service because it was different.
Yeah.
I know it was. I mean, I had notes, but I said things in first service that I didn't say in second service, and
Yeah.
so I can't remember what I said in which one. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that I got cut off really. I felt like that
You were able to say it?
yeah, I mean I could have told stories about
Sure.
my coming to my understanding that God was leading me in a direction. And I did like the way Pastor Nathaniel kind of wrapped it up towards the end. And even with Caleb, even in the times that we don't feel that we belong or that we are inside of God's will or God's calling, that at that same time, because he knows where we're going to end up. He's leading us to people, experiences, showing us Bible lessons. We're learning out of, as our life is going along, that he is going to use later on because he's going to meet us at that place that he's been waiting for us.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think, I know in my case, he didn't waste any time because he kept me engaged in the spiritual life of my local church and here at Hope Church. So it wasn't like I was like running away from good deeds and work and running away from the people he put in my life. Yeah. But I just wasn't being obedient and faithful in the areas that he wanted and when he wanted. But I can look back and say, oh yeah, God used all these experiences and those years in between being a teenager and coming to which is when I really became aware of that I needed Christ in my life. And as a child, I had prayed the prayer, but it wasn't until I was a teenager that I really understood what that meant. And I knew that God had something for me to do, but I just didn't like the idea of being a pastor
Yeah.
at all. So anytime anybody would suggest it, I pretty much shied away from that.
Yeah.
But God knew that he could, his long suffering, he's long suffering and very patient. And that if he waited long enough and let me learn some lessons, that someday I would submit my will over to his will.
Yeah.
So I can look back and say God definitely used the in-between years, kind of like Moses out in the desert. He was training Moses how to survive in the desert for 40 years because he knew Moses was going to have to show other people how to survive in the desert for 40 years. So I can now look back and tell people, I know what it's like to be in your 20s or your 30s. I know what it's like to raise a family. I know all those, I have all those connections outside of the church, so to speak, or outside of ministry. But now that I'm in ministry, I definitely can relate because I didn't have that title with me. And so as soon as I tell my stories, not as a pastor, sometimes that even connects with people in other ways. Yeah. Sure.
That's good.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I keep, when you were saying that, because again, I got to talk a lot ahead of microphone the whole time, so I got to interrupt you guys. I got to talk as much as I wanted to talk. I think I'm just kept trying to think about like, what did I really hope people understood? What I really want people to take away? And I think a lot of it had to do with, I just wanted people to, I guess, see that we're people. I mentioned this, but just to remove some of the aura, if we're allowed to use that pastorally,
Yes.
some of the mystery or
Yes.
mysticism around the position, like.
Sorry, I'm younger, so aura means something very different.
Right. Well, I understand.
Okay.
That's why I kind of walked it back. Yeah. But but just the idea, the mystique around it, or I just feel like, I think in some ways, in good ways, you know, there was such a reverence for the position, which I think is good. It made people believe that there's no way that I could ever be that thing. And I guess I hope that people heard us talking and just saw like, we're just people, we're trying to figure it out. And we don't do everything right all the time. I've missed out on things as a pastor that God wanted me to do. I mean, it's been a while now, but I mean, like, I've shared in generosity sermons, like my first 5 years, I was a full-time pastor as a youth pastor. My first full-time youth pastor for like 5 years, we were like, we're poor and we didn't give anything to the church. Nothing. And I was pastoring. I was literally preaching sermons about why people should give and not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, we're just people and we are trying to do what we feel like God has called us to do, but we're learning and we're growing and we have hard days. Like, I think the other thing is just people think like when you're a pastor, that means that you have to like be excited about Jesus every day. And I have always loved Jesus. But I have not been excited about my job every day. I have not. There have been a lot of days where I'm not excited about my job, just like you. I'm sure you, listener, have had days where you're not excited about your job. And I have those days too. And some days I'm like, why do I even do this stupid job? This job is so dumb. I don't want to be here. And again, I think we feel like we can't do it because there's this perception that pastors are always, they never mess up and they're always bright and happy and cheerful.
Super energy.
Yeah. And
Always. Yeah.
and they've never had a bad thought about the church or about Jesus, or they've never been angry at God.
Or church people.
Yeah.
Church
Their-
people.
Their faith has never been shaken. They've never doubted. And none of that's true. In some ways, I feel like being a pastor tests your faith more than not being a pastor. In some ways, it's harder.
Yeah.
And so I guess if that's you, where you've written yourself off because you felt like there's this thing about being a pastor, I flush that stuff and just listen to what it is that God is trying to tell you. And I know for some people they're like, I don't even know how to do that. Well, talk to somebody that you trust and say, I think maybe I would like to do this. What do you think about that? See how it feels and how they hear it. And then the other thing is just that being brave to have I see in you conversations, right? When you see something in someone, tell them. Because I think maybe all of us would say, we're here today because somebody
Somebody else.
spoke life over us.
Absolutely.
Somebody spoke that into me
Yep.
and said, I see this thing in you. And they saw it in me before I saw it in myself.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of my big two things.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. I can just piggyback off of
Do it.
yours before we
Yeah.
move on. The part about that, if you think that because people are born into a pastor's or a reverend's home or whatever, that somehow that there's a new sense of holiness on that child or sense of understanding or wisdom or anything, it's not true. We're just people.
Yeah.
And there's this expectations that because we're born into a preacher's home that we're just automatically know all scripture and we have wisdom and knowledge, and we don't, which is one reason why we see so many preachers' kids like fade away and drop out, because they can never live up to the expectation of the role of their mom or their dad, whoever's in ministry
Yeah.
at that time. And also when you talked about getting tired, I think of this all the time to myself. It's really kind of a side note though, that I can be tired of in ministry, but not be tired of the ministry.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself of that. There are days I'm just totally exhausted from being in ministry, but I'm not tired of being a minister.
Yeah.
Well,
And
sometimes
I
I'm
didn't even-
tired of being a minister too.
Of ministry.
Okay.
Of ministry.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Because that's where we find our
That's
gratification.
right. Yeah.
We are tired being a pastor,
Yeah.
but not of
Yeah.
being a ministry. I try to frame it to that myself some days, because some days we get tired. We just think, wow, maybe if I just stop this, I wouldn't be tired, but then we wouldn't be fulfilled.
Yeah.
So at the same time,
Yeah.
and I found that to be true. So
In the pastor's kid thing, for real, yeah. In some ways, and you guys back me up if you feel this way, but for me and for my wife, who are both pastors' kids, I feel like we had more baggage about church than anyone. like this didn't make it easier to become a pastor. In some ways, it makes it harder to become a pastor.
For me, it made it hard.
Yeah.
I saw what went
Yeah.
on in the pastor's home just because of the lifestyle that my
Yeah.
parents had to live, and I do not want to raise a family like that.
Yeah.
Because my parents had to make sacrifices on their family to be able to do what they felt God wanted them to do for other people, and that's a real hard place to find that. And I always thought, nah, I don't want that.
Dude, real quick for you guys, was being a pastor's kid make it harder or easier when you felt like you were pursuing a call, like hearing a call?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, for me, that was a big obstacle because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I wanted to have my own legacy.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to have my own identity apart from what my dad did. I felt like I was just gonna fold into his life or whatever.
Yeah. Same way. Part of it is it's harder, but then once you decide that that God has called you, you understand a little more what it's going to take than people who weren't.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Once the biggest part was coming to the decision, okay, God, I'm going to be obedient. But once I crossed that mark, then it's like, okay, I know a little more what to expect.
Yeah.
A little more what to expect. But God uses whoever. He uses whoever. He even
This
uses
isn't the
preachers'
pastor's
kids
kid
and-
podcast. So, yeah.
Yes.
We'll start our own podcast unpacking but that's not for this. So
Yeah.
Caleb, you better go.
Yeah.
Well, I think most of my story, like yesterday that I shared, was a lot focused towards the end of everything, towards the calling part. But I think, what you guys were talking about with the pastor's kid thing, just to touch on it, I remember, trying to start a Bible study in high school and getting there and saying, all right, we'll preach.
Mm-hmm.
You're the pastor's kid, go.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm here to learn, and
Yeah.
just multiple things like that growing up where it's hard to hard to lead from that position, but also just be part of the congregation, right? To just kind of fade away and say, hey, I'm trying to learn this too. And that's why I believe most of my life I knew about Jesus, but I didn't know him, right? So it wasn't until I actually started to set that time aside for myself and say, okay, I'm going to develop a relationship with Jesus that the calling truly started to be brought to my attention, right? And I don't know, I just think there's a lot of that time where when I grew up in the church, you know, you see a lot of the great things, but you see a lot of the ugly things. People in ministry, you know, that probably shouldn't be in ministry. There's a lot of like the politics and things like that that can push you away or discourage you. And I think a lot of people with social media nowadays see that more now than ever. You don't have to be raised in a pastor's home to see the ugly side of the church. So I think the people who are watching that and say, I don't want to be a part of that, I think you should really ignore it and focus on the one true thing, and that's God. Because that's one thing that when I do get discouraged consistently, that keeps popping up in my head is the Lord just telling me, focus on me. Like, that's why you're here, right? And focus on leading people towards me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, you know, one of the things, not coming from not being a pastor's kid background, and not really growing up really in church till like later in middle school years. When I started to feel that call to ministry, like I had no idea what that would even look like, what that was, who to talk to, and those things. And so definitely when I was older, like leaning on like you as my youth pastor and stuff was like a lot more help, even though I still had no idea what the heck it even looked like or meant, or like, because I feel like everything in life typically has a easy way of like finding out exactly how you get into it. Pastoring feels like one of those things that's like really all over the place when it comes to how do you even like pursue being a pastor. And so it was really confusing. It was really confusing. And so I remember for a lot of that, living in that of, am I like, I need to feel like this is the thing that God is truly calling me to. Because if I'm just going into it nilly-willy, I think I'm going to get myself really burnt and hurt anything else I could do outside of that. Not really hurt outside of that, but really kind of mess up any sort of plans in that time period. And so I definitely had that feeling of like, I need to get this right. I need to figure this out and make it perfect. And what I learned is, I still had so much more to continue to learn, and I still have no idea sometimes. And so, man, I think so much, and definitely with hearing with some of your guys' callings too, of there is a lot that we don't know when we're in it. And sometimes taking that step towards our calling will just take a leap of faith a little bit.
If you wait until you're fully prepared, you'll never get there.
Yeah. And so, you know, for a lot of us, we kind of all have different backgrounds. So I would just love to hear, for that person who may be sitting in that similar position as you guys, what advice do you think you would give somebody? Cheryl, I know you're the woman in the table. So like for the person who's like a woman who's like grew up very similar to you, where maybe grew up in a church where women were not pastors. Hey, what advice would you have for somebody like that?
If God is calling you to it, be obedient.
Yeah.
If you need somebody to walk alongside with you, I can be that person for you. I've been there. I've walked through that. I've wrestled with thoughts. It's like, okay, am I supposed to be doing this? Is this wrong? And so I've wrestled with that. I've gotten, just Lord, if this is where you want me to go, please show me, open the doors. And, I was thinking about what Caleb was saying about yesterday, about where God had things in your past that kind of trained you to be where you're at. And I can look at things now, looking back. My dad was the treasurer. I remember sitting at the dining room table with him as he's writing checks. Now I sit and write checks. Yeah. I remember there was a time when the treasurer here at Hope, her husband was sick. And she was training me how to do it so I could fill in and do it so she could dedicate time to her husband.
Yeah.
And now that's what I do. And so God was using all of those opportunities to show me, this is where I want you to be. This is where I want you to go.
Yeah.
But that pastor title, that was a hard step for me to take. And it took people speaking into me, as the I see in you conversations.
Yeah.
And so I had to be obedient, and yeah.
How about you, Jim? Definitely for somebody who, say, stepped into their calling later in life, what advice would you have for that person who is maybe wrestling with, like, hey, am I, like, did I miss the time to become a pastor? Am I too old for this? Am I, all those different questions with kind of, hey, I already have a family. I already, like, the house is already here. The kids are already here. The bills need to be paid. Do I have to do this full time? Do I have to do this part time? All that kind of stuff. What advice would you give to that?
Well, you don't. I mean, God will lead you into what He wants you to be and where He wants you to go. Again, the first step is just to be willing and say, okay, I will do it wherever you lead me. But God knows about your kids. He knows about your family. He knows about your time. He knows about your income. So those are secondary, to being obedient and to going into ministry. So, for me, I was already pretty involved in a lot of areas of church. And so I understood a lot about what the role was going to be. So I would say for someone who's considering that, I would say, well, I would ask them to consider, how engaged am I now? Because just getting a title or going into full-time ministry doesn't do anything, doesn't give you any super magical powers. If you're not serving now and you're not asking God to lead you, if you're not studying God's word, you probably won't do it if you somehow think that God's calling you and you want to go into vocational ministry. So get engaged in those things and start seeing where maybe God is currently using you, the things that you would say are meaningful to your life and that you find that God has used to reach people already or bless other people, and see if maybe those are not some of the areas that God might be calling you into. But ultimately, it could just be a totally different thing. You might feel like, well, I can sing and play, so therefore I've got to be a worship pastor. And I've seen where that's not necessarily true. He might want you to be an evangelist, or he just might want you to be an administrative pastor or run a nonprofit Christian organization. There's a lot of things. It's not just like, I've got to get a job and work at the church.
Yeah, we didn't talk at all about like missionaries.
Yeah.
Like that kind of calling, we didn't speak about it
Yes.
at all.
But calling is calling
is calling, yeah.
a calling to a life of service, and then some of it then becomes vocational. And I think that's kind of where we're at today, is like that, taking that leap from probably maybe serving. Many people listening to us are probably already serving in some way, and sensing God has more for them to do.
Yeah.
And so for those people, God is no respecter of persons. So age isn't going to be an issue as to whether God can use you or an excuse.
Yeah.
God will take whatever you have because He gave it to you, and He'll use it. He knows you more already in what you're capable of. So don't try to outguess God. Until negotiating with God for ministry is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I think many people on my same way with me, and I've heard of other people who they try to negotiate. Okay, God, well, I'll do this and I'll do that, but I won't do that. And that's not the lordship of Christ. When you're negotiating with the Lord, you don't negotiate with your King.
Right.
You just obey.
Yeah.
So you can't be too old to start serving God or even making up your vocation. You don't have to be highly educated. None of Jesus' disciples, as far as we can tell, were probably very educated. Maybe a couple. Being willing is to do whatever God calls you to is the most important thing, and He'll work out the details. Because in my case, I had kids, middle-aged kids already, trying to earn a living so my wife could stay home some when our kids grew up. But God will work through those details. If you take care of the major things, He'll work out the minor things there. And I have to say that God has always provided for us.
Yeah.
It wasn't, that's not an issue. God will take care of, God provides for whatever needs we have to do whatever the task is that he gave us.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's not going to be the way we thought, though. So all the things that you think, expectations that you might have, just chuck those out the window, because you'll be fighting those things your whole ministry time.
Yeah.
If you have these preconceived ideas of the way it's supposed to be, because God is going to do something different than what you could conceive. Because if you can conceive of it, well, then just go ahead and do it yourself if you can do it. But if you throw those things out the window and say, okay, God, here's this adventure we're going on, you might find that he leads you back to what your heart's desire was, but don't expect it to be that, because I know that it's not that way.
Touching on missionaries a little bit, Jim grew up a missionary kid.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you were talking about, some of the sacrifices your parents made in ministry, packing up 4 kids, pregnant with your 5th one, and hopping on an airplane and flying to a country you'd never been to before. And sacrifices that were made, and did not getting all of his parents' time because they were teaching in a Bible college in Brazil, and so there were times they had other people that were helping raise them, and so it was some of those sacrifices, but they were being obedient to what God had called them to do.
When I think yes, we have to be willing before anything, and we have to trust that God will work out the things. But I do think, like God gives us the desires of our hearts, and I think a lot of times that's God changing the desires of our hearts, right? It's not like I want to win the lottery. God's going to give that to me because that's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's God. As I spend more time with him, he changes what I desire.
Certainly, that's
And
why.
and I think that's important because I don't want people to feel like I used to. I had a brokenness in my spirit growing up where I used to joke with people like, I think I'm going to be a missionary in Africa because that is the absolute last thing I would ever want to do. But God's going to make me show him how much I'm willing to suffer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I believed. Like, I thought God wanted to make me hate it so that I could show him how much I was going to do. And that's not who God is. And I know that's not what you're saying. I just wanted to name that really clearly, because I know other people have had that where they assume that God wants it to suck so that they can show God how much they're willing to hurt for him or whatever. And I just don't think that's the way it is. And I love what we were talking about, calling or comfortable, right? Like that is it. Like God might stretch you, but God doesn't want you to be miserable. Right. You know what I mean? And so I think the calling might be stretching. It might be uncomfortable, but I think oftentimes too, as God calls us, he shapes the desires of our hearts to be drawn to those things over time. And so sometimes it starts with willing before desire, and it gets there. But, it's not, I don't want to scare people and be like, God wants you to be mad. So the question you're going to ask me about what do I want to say to people like me, I don't know exactly. Again, I don't want to be too niche. Like, I think mine, so basic. My calling story is like what you picture. Like, a pastor's kid who got called at a youth conference when he was a teenager. And it's just like, whatever.
But that is some people's story.
It is.
And they're listening to you now and they're going, wow, it can work too.
It can. But I think what I'm thinking about for people listening is, I don't know, I because of being a pastor's kid, there was all this pressure all the time to be a certain way or behave a certain way or present a certain image. And I think a lot of pastors struggle with that. Being honest or vulnerable. They feel like accessing their flaws or acknowledging them will cause people to not respect them as pastor or whatever. But I'm just telling you, I feel like in my journey in ministry, God has consistently given me the freedom and called me to be more, I don't know, every time I get anxious about, I'm going to be honest here and it's going to be mad, I'm met with more love and grace from the church. And there's this appreciation from people that our pastor is a person like we are. And so I guess I just, I don't know, I know I talked about it already, but just trying to remove the mystique of it, and that's what I've been trying to talk about a lot. And maybe it's because I'm a pastor's kid who became a pastor, where like, I hear people talk about my dad. I'm like, that guy? My dad is great, but my dad is not perfect. And I think I saw that side of it, right? Like my dad does mess up, and my dad does not know sometimes. It was actually really refreshing. I was just asked my dad a pastoral question this week, and I was like, hey dad, this is something I'm wrestling with. Like, how would you handle this? And he goes, I don't know.
Yay, Dad. Yay, Dad.
I was like, wow, that's weirdly encouraging.
Because if Dad doesn't know, okay, maybe I'm okay.
I'm not a doofus, yeah. But I don't know. I keep coming back to that. I think God is calling you to be a pastor because he wants you to be a pastor. Caleb and I were just talking about this. I spent a lot of my time trying to be a bad version of Andy Stanley when I started at pastoring. I used to get the TV on the cart and roll it out and try to boil the sermon down to a sentence and all that stuff. I wanted to be him. I admired him so much. And I was like, man, instead of being a bad version of Andy Stanley, how about I just be a good version of myself?
Yeah.
And instead of trying to become what I think the church people want me to be, what if I just became who God created me to be? And I let that be the expression of how I'm leading. And I think I just want to encourage you, if you are feeling like, well, I'm not that or whatever, I think if God is calling you, it's because he wants you. And so be you.
Yeah.
And let your personality shine through in the work that God's calling you to do, because the way God has wired you will be able to reach people that other people won't be able to reach. So
Yeah, and we talked about, when we were talking about that, I had said that, I forgot it again. I forgot what we were talking, and I forgot it.
I don't even know what you're talking about right now. So
comparison.
the comparison.
Comparison's a thief of joy. I spent so much time comparing myself and like how people lead worship, right? Like, oh man, I should lead like that person. Or even, training under Jim, like Jim does it this way, so like, I'm going to try to do it that way, where, during this process, I had a month where I was the worship leader for the month, and Jim took a step back and let me drown. I'm kidding. But no, like I went to like a little retreat area for a couple days, and I was just really seeking an answer, like, how do you want me to lead? And it's always so simple, usually when the Lord answers me, it's like a sentence, but it's like a book's worth of wisdom, and it was just, I want you to lead the way you're supposed to lead. Like who you are is how I want you to lead. And whether that's, you name however it is, but I guess I just want people to understand that, like, God made you who you are. God gave you your personality. He will work on your heart. He will develop your heart into be the leader that you need to be. And you just follow that path, and God will bring you to where you need to be. Don't worry about where you come from or what you've done, what sins you've committed, and all that stuff. Because in my journey, when I walked away from the church, I didn't necessarily walk away from God. I believed in God, but I wasn't following him. I wasn't living the way he wanted me to live. I was going to bars and playing music and pursuing fame for me. I wanted the attention on me. I wanted the spotlight on me. And I didn't care really what other people thought. But during that time, that's when the Lord was teaching me how to lead worship. But I didn't know. And there's a quick story I'd like to touch on that I've told a few people, but not very many people. Was, I remember I was playing, almost said leading worship at a bar. I was playing at a bar, and I was playing this song by Jacob Bryant called "Save My Soul." And because I'd come from the church, a lot of the country music that has like a little tie to the Bible to it, just something I was into. And I was singing this song, and over to the corner, there's a woman, and, I'm sitting on stage, probably had way too much to drink, and her arms were up in the air with her eyes closed, worshiping God in a bar. And My eyes are starting to sweat a little bit. That was the moment where something hit me, and I was just like, I knew what she was doing, but I was like, what are you doing? You know? And I believe that was the beginning of my calling. God was showing me then, you know, that like, I've called you to lead people to me. And even in this place where it seems like people are as far away from me as possible, you know, people can still find me here, you know, and that he wasn't giving up on me. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what would you say then for somebody who you're still, I wouldn't say pursuing. I feel like you're kind of really in it, but
Yeah.
you're still kind of in that beginning step where you're not necessarily like a pastor yet,
Right.
but you're still kind of like in that in between. What would you give for somebody, or what would tips would be that you would give somebody being in that stage right now?
Start playing in bars.
Walk away from the
That's what I
church
heard.
completely.
That's what I heard.
Go have fun. No, I'm kidding. Absolutely not. I look at people who have the boring story, or you say the perfect story. I envy that. I wish I didn't have to go through the things I went through to get where I was. But looking back, I wouldn't change a thing because of the things that the Lord taught me in that time. But I believe to be a sponge, just soak up everything you can. Everything is a lesson. Like nothing is by coincidence. The things that I've gone through, even the things that seem like very minuscule, you know, like, you know, for Jim, you know, the way he handles the worship team, one thing I've noticed is like he watches a lot and he listens a lot. Nothing he does is by an accident. Everything is intentional, right? So like that's nothing he's said to me. That's just something I've noticed. So I would say like someone who's going into ministries, pay attention to the leaders around you. Pay attention to the people that are championing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Championing.
Yes, thank you.
That one.
And
We're cheering you on.
man, you never know how many words you struggle with until you're on a podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people that are lifting you up and affirming you, just pay attention to them and what they're doing, and not just what they're saying to you, but their actions. I believe that I've learned probably just as much from watching than from sitting down or reading a book or studying or watching a video on YouTube or something like that. Just watching the people around you and how they interact with their congregation, with their team. But yeah.
That's good. I think for me, for somebody who didn't have like a church background, didn't grow up PK, anything like that, I'd say lean heavier on your local church body than you think you should. Because there's going to be that natural aspect of, I don't want to annoy them, I don't want to overburden them, I don't want to do all these things. And I can promise you, they want you to. They want you to more than you think. Even if you're there quite a bit and you're still feeling that, they care about that. They want that. Use it. You know, use it. Definitely if you're somebody who you're like, I don't have anybody in my family to talk to really about this because they don't have experience in that. You know, for instance, me, I got to see both my parents get baptized when I was older. So like, you know, it wasn't like we grew up when I was a small kid going to church events and stuff like that. Like I said, it wasn't really until middle school where that started to get introduced into my life. So I was already kind of a little bit older there. Yeah, lean on those pastors and really ask them questions. Any question that you have, ask them. Because they care about you. they're not afraid of questions, and they want to see you succeed. And if this is something that God is like calling you into, they're probably the most resourced to help you with that, and help you find your way along that path there. But yeah, I know we're kind of getting closer to the end of time here. Is there any kind of closing thoughts that you guys have when it comes to calling or anything like that?
Answer it.
Answer it.
Yeah. I think answer it.
Yeah, I think Trevor, you nailed it, man. Just that we're dying for somebody to come talk to us about it. That would make my life. So, yeah, absolutely. Yep, and we understand there's a discerning season, right? If you come sit forward and say, "Hey, I think I might want to do this," we're not going to be like, "All right, here's your clerical collar. Let's
go on."
Yeah,
It
we
might
understand
be
there's a
something
discerning.
like you could intern, like
Yeah.
Caleb has done, to see. Okay, I think this is where God's calling me. I want to kind of explore it a little bit, and you might find, like Caleb did, yes, this is where God's calling me. And you might find, oh, maybe not. Okay, that's all right. That doesn't mean that God isn't calling you. It just might not.
I've had interns like that where they do the internship and then they're like, "I don't think this is really for me."
Yeah.
That's fine.
Or it might be a different area of
Area.
ministry.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
Certainly.
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I was gonna look over at you, Nathaniel, and say what's next because that's typically what happens. But
But
next
I'm
week
gonna throw
is
it back to you.
Mission Sunday.
Mission Sunday.
We're super excited. We're gonna have some of our partners here talking on stage. You're gonna hear from the South Dakota crew talk from their experience as well of what happened from the mission trip and all that fun stuff. So don't miss out on that. It's gonna be a great time. And then at the end of that, they're going to have tables outside in the lobby so you guys can go talk with our partners, go ask questions, interact with them. And that same token, they want, like, make their time valuable. They're here, go talk to them. You know, nothing's worse than having a table set up and talking to absolutely nobody. Go talk with them. They want that. It's going to be a great Sunday. And I think that's it. So... guys,
Thanks for making this the biggest series recap
the
ever.
biggest
Epic.
series recap.
Epic.
Any of you are welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, hey, y'all. I think that's it. Like always,
right. We'll
we
see
love
ya.
y'all. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Series Recap. The Series Recap exists to encourage people at Hope Community Church to continue to engage with their faith and their formation even after Sunday is over. Our hope is that we can keep formational ideas and concepts in front of us during the week to help redirect our attention back to Jesus as we learn to practice the way of Jesus. We'll see you guys next time. God bless.